Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I let you know what I thought about them. And we always start with the pick of the week, and this week's pick of the week, Batman, Gargoyle of Gotham, issue number 1. Now, technically, this book doesn't drop until Saturday, which is Batman Day, September 16th, right? And I think this, as far as I can remember, the first time DC is launching a new title for Batman Day. So I think that's kind of cool. So get to your local comic shop on Saturday for Batman Day. Pick up this fantastic book. Also, there's some freebies to be given away, some masks, some comics, some things like that. And maybe your LCS is even having some kind of a sale or something like that. If they're LCS worth their salt, then they definitely are. Anyway, Batman Gargoyle of Gotham. A lot of shops will probably have this on shelves this week for New Comic Book Day. Some will wait till Saturday. Some may not get the memo and have it out next Tuesday. If you look at all different websites, it will tell you this day, that day. Well, our distributor said this comes out on Saturday. I am going to consider this as part of this week's comics. Therefore, it makes the pick of the week. This is written and illustrated by Raphael Grandpa. I absolutely love this dude's art. I've seen it before on Dark Knight, The Golden Child, for instance. And he's got a very Paul Popey type style in that book. In this book, it's much more like Nick Darrington meets Frank Quitely by way of Jeff Darrow. It's absolutely splendid. It is amazing. The artwork in this book is sensational. The coloring, the layouts, the texture, the utilization of the line for the texture, and the way that that accentuates mood and atmosphere in this book. It's kind of got the color palette of, I don't know, something noirish, but it's also very kinetic, dynamic when it needs to be. It is a very solid detective story. It is a Batman Elseworlds type tale, so it's not set in any continuity. It is its own vision of Gotham, of Batman, of Gordon. It introduces a new villain, which is absolutely fascinating to me. The look of this book is absolutely striking. It is masterful. It is just downright masterful. The story is good. The story is solid. The story is very serviceable. But that artwork, oh my goodness, there is nothing like it in shops this week. There hasn't been anything like it in a while. Well, maybe. That's hyperbolic. But whatever. This book was absolutely awesome. I do not want you to miss out on this. Get to your shop on Batman Day and pick up a copy of this $6.99 DC Black Label Mature Readers Batman Elseworlds title. Fantastic. But basically, it's about Batman decides, you know what, I don't need Bruce Wayne anymore. Alfred's trying to convince him that he does. It feels like this is early in Batman's career. He's got this cool redesign on the costume by Grandpa. The artwork is just so freaking good in this book. I got to find you this really nice shot of Batman right there. It's just absolutely amazing. That Frank Quitely energy, that texture and density of someone like Jeff Darrow, absolutely splendid. Fantastic. Love it. But Batman's thinking about getting rid of the Bruce Wayne identity. Alfred's trying to convince him not to do that. Meanwhile, there's this new criminal showing up in Gotham, and all of his murders and crimes are developed around this old cartoon called the Cry-toon or something like that. The villain's got a very striking look about him. I'll show you that real quick too. Lots of black and white type stuff. Absolutely a freaking gorgeous book. And it's the pick of the week. Batman Gargoyle of Gotham. Hidden shops on Saturday. Some shops might have it. There is a Frank Miller variant that also has Jock on it. I'm not sure if Jock did the inking and the coloring, but he definitely did the coloring. That is awesome. And you know me, I love me some Frank Miller. I love me some Jock. The two of them together on this book, which is already blowing my mind, that's the cover of the week for me. So there you go. There's also a noir edition of this book, which is the black and white line work of the book with a little bit of spot color for like blood and sound effects and stuff like that. But you get to see the work in black and white, and it looks even more striking, and it's a whole different experience. Artwork, great comic book artwork, has to look great in black and white before it can look good in color. This does both, and you get to see it just absolutely splendid. So that drops on Saturday. But in normal DC release times, which is Tuesday, we got Batman and Robin issue number 1. So this is a new Batman and Robin series written by Josh Williamson, who has been writing Damian, who this of course is Damian Wayne. Robin, he's been writing that character for a few years now in his own solo series that recently wrapped up. This is continuing some of those story threads, and I really appreciate the connection to what has come before and what Williamson's been building up with this character. The book has artwork by Simone DeMeo, and it's big, it's boisterous, and it's kinetic, but there are times where it just feels like maybe there's a little too much going on and it kind of gets lost in there. Maybe some of the coloring doesn't really help accentuate the backgrounds from the foregrounds and stuff like that, but it does have this nice sense of big, bombastic, heroic action. And the story's fine too. Basically, these villains are going around doing something. Damian's moving back in with Bruce Wayne. This is kind of set in with the events of the Batman Catwoman Gotham War, so they're referencing that, but it doesn't really quite feel like it's supremely attached to that or whatever. It is doing its own thing, but it's cool to see these two characters kind of trying to exist on their own again, Bruce and Damian, trying to rebuild something. But the Bruce in here is acting a little bit more like Bruce, less like the crazy Zurin R-infested Bruce that's going on in the pages of the Batman Catwoman Gotham War. But it was solid, it was good, I liked it, and it's setting up an interesting mystery. But I do love me a good Batman and Robin book. Then we got Green Lantern here with issue number 3. Excuse me. Something in my throat. So we got Green Lantern issue number 3. Now that Night Terrors is over, we can hopefully continue the momentum that was established by some of these newer Dawn of DC books, and Green Lantern, I will definitely tell you, has continued that momentum. Jeremy Adams has just recently come off of a very consistently solid run on the Wally West Flash book. Now he's focusing in on Hal Jordan. He's got a new ring, it's got different abilities, it's got different limitations. We're exploring that out. Some stuff's going on with Carol Ferris. We're exploring out that relationship between the two, the world of Coast City, as well as the menace and the threat of Sinestro. And I've never seen the menace and the threat of Sinestro portrayed in such a genuinely creepy and grounded way than I do in the pages of Green Lantern. So I'm loving it. I like the artwork. The backup story is even cool too, by Philip Kennedy Johnson, a John Stewart-centric story that's setting up the events of Green Lantern War Journal. So Green Lantern number 3, I really enjoyed it. Batman Incorporated here with issue number 12. This is the final issue of Batman Incorporated. For now, they do promise that it's going to return, but it does bring to an end this era of Batman Incorporated, an end to the Ghostmaker run, Batman Incorporated era, this whole story that's been building up since issue number 1. Now, Ed Brisson's done near the impossible here. He's done a book that could easily just be Ghostmaker-centric, or it could just kind of get lost in the mix of all of the different characters. But this book has maintained a character arc for Ghostmaker, but all of the other members of Batman Incorporated, and it's always been thrilling, it's always been exciting, and each member, each person in this book, including all of the people in Joker Incorporated, have had plenty of moments to shine. It brings a very satisfying conclusion to the last 12 issues, and also sets up the future of Batman Incorporated. I love this book, and it has been one of DC's best, most underappreciated and undersung comics of the last year. Then we got World's Finest Teen Titans issue number 3, a book I actually enjoyed better than issue number 1 and number 2. It's written by Mark Waid with artwork by Emanuela Lupacchino, I believe. The artwork is solid, and just like World's Finest, the Batman Superman book, Emanuela Lupacchino, yes. Just like the Batman Superman World's Finest book, this is a modern feeling book that also has that classic Silver Age type of vibe. Robin's kind of beefing with some of the Titans right now. They want to go to this Titans Con thing. They're kind of like enamored with this celebrity status that's been thrust upon them, right? This is set in the early days of the Teen Titans, probably like year 1, something like that. But Bruce is telling Dick, you know, yo, you got to stay here because you can't make public appearances. Like, we're supposed to be vigilantes in secret and this and that, right? And plus the fame and the celebrity is not what we're after. Well, the other Titans go there and maybe they realize that the fame and the celebrity is not exactly what they're after either. A very enjoyable story, great characterizations, and just that nice classic vibe of a classic Silver Agey type comic. Over at Marvel, we got a new Daredevil book, Daredevil number 1, now written by Saladin Ahmed with artwork by Aaron Cooter. the Chip Zdarsky run was a fan favorite. People have really liked that run, and whenever a fan favorite run ends, we're always trepidatious about the next run. Well, I can go ahead and tell you that the next run of Daredevil is in good, capable hands, at least considering this first issue. So when we last saw Matt, he had kind of forgotten who he was, forgotten his Daredevil past. Elektra has allowed this to happen, is like, you know what, have your peace, Matt, and he's a priest now. So Matt is a priest at this like unaffiliated church who is like taking in like abused kids or stray kids or orphans and stuff like that, right? And he's dealing with all of this while he's also dealing with the idea that he's got this past that's continuing to haunt his dreams and stuff like that. He also has Elektra as his guardian devil kind of watching over him, and then a really crazy, almost supernaturally menace kind of comes through, and this was just a really solid book. Saladin Ahmed, sometimes his books can be a little bit verbose or just be a little bit clunky in their dialogue. This one was not. This is one of the best scripts I've ever read from Saladin Ahmed. I've ever read. I've read pretty good. Anyway, one of the best scripts from Saladin Ahmed I have ever read, and the artwork by Aaron Kuder, I really like his work. I was really thinking, not quite the artist I would anticipate to be on a Daredevil book, but it absolutely works. He's got a clean line, but he does really great things with negative space that really makes this book soar and feel very dark and Deadpool-y, and I really didn't think that was going to happen, so I was really pleased with this book, how it honored the ending of Chip Zdarsky's run, is playing with that, playing with those new rules, but then also establishing its own rules and its own direction, and I'm excited now, again, for the future of Daredevil. Plus, a Frank Miller cover. You know me, I'm a mark for Frank Miller, especially when it comes to Daredevil. So this week, you tell me we got a new Frank Miller Daredevil and a Frank Miller Batman cover. What year is it? This is awesome. Then we got Avengers Incorporated. Avengers? Did I say Avengers? Did he just say Avengers? I think he did. Anyway, Avengers Incorporated. This is a new one from Marvel Comics, written by Al Ewing with artwork by Leonard Kirk, I believe. Yeah, Leonard Kirk, Alex Sinclair. It's an alright book. It's interesting. It's like, what is it? It's kind of like an Avengers detective mystery. Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp. First of all, like, heroes are outlawed in New York City, so she can't wear a costume. Some former villains have allegedly been killed. Luke Cage is the new mayor. He tells Janet, yo, you got to investigate this, but you can't use your costume. And then other characters get involved, so it's almost kind of like it's like a detective version of the Avengers, and it wasn't bad. It was all right. It was a dense comic. It took a while to read, but it was never boring, but it wasn't ever exactly thrilling either, but it does have an exciting kind of intriguing mystery going on there. I think Luke Cage is going to be a spotlighted character. We see the Vision right there. We see Wanda. It's kind of like Men in Black meets the Avengers. That's totally wrong and off base, but it is more of like a detective agency for the Avengers or something like that. But it was all right. It was all right. It didn't completely wow me, but it didn't completely turn me off. Then we got Werewolf by Night #1. It's a one-shot comic, so don't expect anything more after this, but maybe they will if it sells well, and it might because there's an Adam Hughes variant cover. But this is a nice one-and-done, self-contained story involving Werewolf by Night and Elsa Bloodstone. It does feel maybe like a year too late. You know, that Werewolf by Night TV special came on Disney Plus last year, which I absolutely loved. We did a review for Horror Fest last year. You can check it out. I think we all gave it like 5 digs, like a perfect score. We were just blown away. Had that like black and white with a touch of color type thing. Well, that's what they're doing here. So Elsa Bloodstone is always in color, but Werewolf by Night and the dark world is usually always in that murky black and white type thing, and the monsters in the red, the blood, the monster's eyes glow red. It's got a cool like artistic approach to it. It's absolutely fine artistically, and the story is fine too, but it doesn't really stretch too far. It doesn't really deliver anything we haven't seen before, but it is a nice, just fun, refreshing, supernatural, monster-themed horror comic from Marvel before Halloween. Because usually, sometimes these things drop after Halloween, and you're like, what are you thinking? I will say this, though. Even though it's just in time for Halloween, it is about a year late. I mean, this would have been perfect last year. It would really got people really excited. But anyway, it's all right. It's pretty good. Then we got Spine-Tingling Spider-Man issue #0. What is this issue #0? Why is it so thick? Why is it so freaking expensive? It's a $10 comic. Why? Well, it's because there's a new book coming out, Spine-Tingling Spider-Man by Saladin Ahmed and Juan Ferreira. I'm a huge fan of Juan's artwork, so I was excited to check this out. Come to find out, the new story actually starts in issue number 1. What this is a reprint of the Marvel Unlimited digital comic. Now, I didn't read it, so I wanted to check this out, but I was kind of worried because sometimes when they take these digital comics and they're made for phones now, so they all have these narrow panels that just scroll up constantly. There's a way to utilize that within the app. How does that translate to the page? Well, I don't know if Juan had any input in how it was laid out, but the layouts on this are absolutely fantastic. So I think this was a really solid book. It's kind of like a horror story for Spider-Man. He has this like song stuck in his head and he can't get it out and it's causing him to lose sleep, and there's some kind of entity out there, supernatural entity that's stealing sleep from people or something like that. But this was really cool. This is its own story, all collected, the entirety of that spine-tingling Spider-Man story. And then we do get a new number 1 next month, and that's going to be a brand new book from this from the same creative team. So if you didn't check it out digitally, or if you wanted a physical copy, this is cool. And if you want a Halloween, a Horror Fest appropriate Spider-Man title, they just gave you one right there, all in one for like $10, but it's actually worth it because it's actually got some great artwork, great interpretations and composition of that digital artwork into the physical medium. Same thing here with Alligator. Loki, issue number 1 is a $5.99 comic that's also collected shorts from the Marvel Unlimited digital app. These are mostly silent stories about Thor and Alligator Loki, and I was rolling my eyes when this book was announced. I was rolling my eyes about it. I was like, oh my goodness, this is also like over a year late because the Alligator Loki phase, that was like Loki season 1. But this book is unbearably cute. It's kind of got that same kind of vibe as Jeff the Land Shark did. So if you like that, you might want to check it out because it's pretty unabashedly adorable. So there you go. Then we got The Incredible Hulk, issue number 4, another strong issue of Hulk. However, no Nick Klein yet again. That's going to be a problem in the series, might be the inconsistencies on the artwork, but so far, they've actually picked fill-in artists to do certain different types of stories, and that's interesting. So we got Travel Foreman here, and on some pages it feels a little bit too sparse and a little bit just too boring, but then there are other pages where it absolutely works. Like that's kind of like a boring page, but then when you flip and you get to stuff like that, that's actually pretty cool. So Travel Foreman's got some good highlight moments in this book, but the story is awesome. Philip Kennedy Johnson delivering what he has promised 4 issues in, which is a horror-themed Hulk book, and that's what we're getting. This is setting up a new story, albeit still connected to the overall massiveness that's going on in this book. And when Hulk shows up again, towards the end, I don't want to spoil things and show off too much of this book. But man, that's a really great page right there. Anyway, Incredible Hulk, I am still loving it. Children of the Vault, issue number 2, part of the Fall of X, but it's our buddy Dennis Camp, one of my favorite writers in comics right now, the writer of Agent of World, the writer of Maxwell's Demons, the writer of 20th Century Men, Bloodshot Unleashed, now doing his first Marvel book, Children of the Vault. Basically, now that the mutants are started to be eradicated and banned and outlawed on many nations on the planet post Hellfire Gala 2023. The Vault children have come out, and they're kind of like almost in the way that the White Martians did in the very beginning of Grant Morrison's Justice League run. They're like wooing the people into thinking that they're the saviors of mankind, but they're really not. But instead of a whole Justice League trying to figure out this plot and this plan and stop it, you just got Bishop and Cable. But the way that Bishop and Cable are written is incredibly well done. I love the dynamic between them. It's got a little bit of a humorous kind of vibe to it, especially considering their history, and I appreciate the respect for that history that Dennis Camp has. Also, just many brilliant ideas. If you like writers like Jonathan Hickman and Grant Morrison that just throw big ideas out there just to throw it out there, not even like other writers could take some of these ideas and would go 60 issues with it. But to Dennis Camp, it's just an idea that is mentioned and explored just a little bit, and then we move right on. It's big, it's bold, it's got some really, really cool, intelligent stuff in it. Children of the Vault, issue number 2. I'm loving it. Then we got Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 2, issue number 10. This was a little bit of a a lull issue for me. Like, Miles Morales' Spider-Man has been good, but ever since the crossover with Carnage and Red Goblin, it feels like it's lost some of its steam. It's losing some of its momentum. So here at the start of a new story, I was hoping to see some of this momentum kind of pick back up, but a big chunk of this was just like his therapy session, and I guess that's fine. I like The Sopranos too, but I don't know, it just kind of felt like this moment we needed to amp things up. And as soon as I was thinking that in the book, the action did amp up, and it eventually got to an ending that I really got excited about, and I will definitely be coming back for the next issue. This is a new artist on the book, but he still does have that kind of kinetic style. But Miles Morales Spider-Man number 10 is losing a bit of its luster, but it's not completely gone. Red Goblin is here with issue number 8. I'm still loving what Alex Paknadel is doing here with the exploration of the legacy of evil, how that affects children. You know, Normie Osborn, his grandfather was the Green Goblin. He knows all about this. He's bonding with the symbiote right now, just wants to unleash the monster against the Goblin Nation, end it all. And he just wants to give into it because he thinks that's what he has to do, because he saw his father, he saw his grandfather. And if you can kind of take that idea and extrapolate it out, what are these words I'm kind of with? If you can extrapolate that out and look at the theme and putting it into any other situation where instead of like the Green Goblin, maybe like someone who is like abusive or somebody who's like addictive, right? Or something like it has an addictive personality, things like that. And how some of us think that can be generational, and sometimes it is. Maybe there's something genetically going on, but sometimes it's like these mental patterns we get into, just repeating the sins of the fathers and stuff like that. So I think that that's really cool stuff to explore in the pages of Red Goblin, which could just be the dumbest freaking idea out there. It could just be the dumbest comic. You know, oh, Norman Osborn's little grandson gets a symbiote. He's the Red Goblin, but they're actually making it work. Let's jump over to Image. And from Image, we have Creepshow number 1. That's right, a brand new series and brand new volume of Creepshow. This is Creepshow volume 2, technically, but if you count the original graphic novel by Stephen King and Bernie Wrightson, it's technically volume 3, but that was based on the movie. This is based on the TV show. It doesn't matter. This is a horror anthology comic in the veins of like Tales from the Crypt and stuff like that, right? I thought that the first volume of this was kind of a mixed bag. Some stuff was all right, some stuff wasn't. I eventually dropped out of it, but it's a new number 1. I decided I'd check it out. Opening stories by Garth Ennis and Becky Cloonan, and I loved that story. That was great. Had some nice commentary, had some nice scares to it. The backup story by Phil Hester was alright, but it didn't really quite woo me as much as that initial story. So Creepshow number 1, I think, is going to be just like the previous volume, a little bit of a mixed bag. It's going to depend on the creators, but if you're really wanting to sink your teeth into some gnarly horror stuff, you might want to check this out. Also, all of the Image books smell amazing this week and last week. Like, I don't know what they've done. They switched the paper. They've done something. Image books since September 1st have smelled amazing. So I'm going to give the smell of the week. I could give it to almost any Image book this week, but I'm going to give it to Creepshow, because Creepshow is the kind of book that really needs to smell like this. And it just smelled a tad better. I don't know why. It did. But then we got the Cull issue number 2. Kelly Thompson, Matea de Ayo Luis. I thought the first issue was enough, but it didn't really quite go far enough to hook me in, and the second one just kind of meanders around a little bit. Some of the characters are acting in ways that I don't think they would, when they should be in moments of shock and awe and surprise. They're like talking about stuff a little bit too. I don't know, there's something off about the way the characters are responding and reacting to the situation that they're being put in. This is basically about this group of friends who followed their one friend into this cave, and they're trying to find like somebody who's missing or something like that, and it takes them into this like fantasy world, like they go through a portal or something like that. But people are acting really weird, and I don't think they're acting in the way that they should act, and the way that they're talking is just a little bit too I don't know, like it's almost like wishful thinking the way that it's being written. But the Cull number 2 does have some solid artwork, albeit a little bit stiff at times. It's a very realistic approach to the artwork, but it also does come across just a little bit stiff and lifeless and doll-like at certain times. So the Cull number 2, a little bit less impressive than issue number 1, and issue number 1 didn't really already have a hook for me, so there you go. Then we got Simon Kudronsky's Something Epic here with issue number 5. I do still think that this is a way too overly verbose comic that kind of hinders the potential that's here. This is a book and story about creativity and imagination. There are wonderful ideas in this book that I think are so profound and solidly rendered visually. It just gets a little stagnant and a little clunky sometimes because there's an excessive verbosity at times. It really just slows up the entire pace of the book. It's delivering us these really cool ideas, but it's not delivering us an exciting comic. And with the artwork that's being delivered here, with those concepts, this book should be a little bit more exciting than it is. Then we got I Hate Fairyland here with issue number 9. Scotty Young keeps doing what Scotty Young do, and that's just making a really stupid, fun, crude, irreverent, and hilarious comic. I absolutely have a blast reading I Hate Fairyland. Now, of course, this is volume 2 as well. We also have the anthology series Untold Tales going on right now. And I never even finished the first volume of I Hate Fairyland, but I have been sucked right back into this world, into this character, into the ridiculousness that is this book, and I have so much fun with I Hate Fairyland, 9 issues in to the second volume. Then we got Dark Ride here with issue number 8. I'm liking this book. It's about this like Disney World, Disneyland type place, but it's horror themed, but maybe like some deals with like demons or devils or something had to be done to make it. There's a mystery behind the family and the family's history that run this place, and I am profoundly interested in this, and the deeper that this story has gotten, the more deeper we're digging into the past of these characters, and we're revealing some really tender and brutally honest moments from their past, and it's really bringing a perspective into this series that's changing how the other issues, previous issues, will be viewed at when I reread it. And I'm excited to go back and reread this book because I like what's being built and I like the subtlety with which the character work is being done in the pages of Dark Ride. All right, from Massive, which is Whatnot Publishing, we got a new one, Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer. This is the best Whatnot Massive book I have ever read. I had a blast with this book. It wasn't perfect. The lettering was just okay. The coloring was maybe a bit too dark. The line work was all right, but the book could be a little bit more kinetic, could have a little bit more energy. But I did enjoy the story, and it's exactly what you think it is. It's Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer. That's what it is. So it's about these slaves trying to escape from the plantation in America back in the day, during the time of the Underground Railroad and all that stuff. They're trying to get away. These vampires show up. Luckily, Harriet Tubman shows up and just buffies their asses. Like, I really liked the setup of this book. It's going to have some language that might make some people uncomfortable, but it's in a historical context. I liked this book a lot. And I think that they're doing a movie or a TV series coming out of this, spinning out of this, and I'm not familiar with these creators, but I did really like this book. But David Crownson and Cortland Ellis and Sharonda J. Brown, kudos. This was actually, when you take these historical characters and you set them in these fictional situations, you know, they've done it with like Abe Lincoln, they did it with Pride and Prejudice and Zombies and all that kind of stuff. Usually I just roll my eyes. The recent Orson Welles one was pretty intriguing, but this one, this was actually pretty cool. I liked it. I rather liked it. All right. Then we got Crusader issue number 1. This is that lunar distribution variant that I really, really like. This is from Mad Cave Studios. I really liked this book, right? Now, I got an early look at this before FOC, and I read it, and I upped our orders because I felt very strongly about this book. It's about a crusader during the Crusades, and he's fighting, he's doing his thing. He winds up in the middle of this dark magical rite, and then transported to this world filled with goblins and all kinds of other things like that. It's a very simple premise. There's not much to it outside of that as far as story goes. It's very simple, but it's the artwork. I really like this artwork. It's got a great kind of texture to it. It's got this kind of like wavy like line to it that I think is absolutely intriguing. I like the setup of the book. I like the composition. I like the lettering. I think this is a top-notch book from Mad Cave Studios. Crusader number 1. Definitely want to check that out. Then we got St. John issue number 1. It's a new one from Dark Horse Comics. Wasn't familiar with this one at all or any of these creators. Dan Schicati and Brennan Wagner. I like this. So St. John is about this dude. He's like a vigilante superhero type character in Portland, Oregon. He's got the big P on his chest. Something tells him where to go when danger's about to strike or someone needs help or assistance. And he just shows up. It's like he can vibe and listen to the city. And it's about a reporter trying to find out more about him. It had a nice, simple kind of style with the artwork, very animated kind of feeling, but it had an earnest sincerity in the story that really, really comes through. So a book that could be definitely below average was absolutely just slightly above average for me because it had a lot of heart and earnest honesty to it, right? So I absolutely liked it. I thought St. John was really cool and maybe definitely worth for you to check out. Darkwing Duck, Negaduck. Negaduck is the antithesis. What is up with me speaking today? The antithesis of Darkwing Duck. You know, think Reverse Flash and Flash, right? So this is Negaduck's story. He shows back up in the city. He unravels all these old. He pulls out all these old evil villain plans that he has. He starts to incorporate one into what he wants to do, but somebody else is starting to do it. So basically, all the villains are doing what he's already planned. So he's got to come up with the biggest, most baddest plan ever. Maybe that's to steal another villain's plan. Anyway, a big spotlight on Negaduck and the other villains of the Darkwing Duck universe. No Darkwing Duck here at all, but it shouldn't be because we're promised Negaduck, and that's what we're getting. And I love that Jay Lee cover. Then we got Coda #1. This is actually Coda Volume 2. I never finished Coda. I think I only read the first issue. I remember my thoughts back then were, seems cool, lots of information, lots of neat stuff going on, cool concepts, great artwork, but I've just kind of felt like it was a little long, a little dragged out, and just a bit confusing. I kind of feel that way about this Coda #1. So I liked it. The artwork was pretty. There were moments that really worked for me. But for the most part, and I don't even know if this is connected to the previous series or if this is a whole new set of characters, a whole new story. I have no idea. Part of it was new reader friendly, but at the same time, Cy Spurrier can do this, but sometimes it just, all the ideas, all the density in the ideas and the dialogue kind of muddy it up just a little bit, and that was happening to me at times here. Certain times it cleared up, and then it would get clunky again. So it was all right. It was a little bit of a mixed bag. Maybe I need to check out that new recently released hardcover of the original volume and get caught up or something. Kilmore is a new one from IDW by Scott Bryan Wilson, Max Allen Fuchs, Fuchs, and Valentino Brisky. This one's all right. It's about this town that's down on its luck, and also apparently the highest population of serial killers. Like, all the serial killers are there, and it has some good ideas. It has some nice, witty, snappy dialogue at times, but at other times that dialogue feels kind of trite and like just doesn't really quite work, and all the story elements don't ever really click together for me. So to me, this was a little bit of a miss, and the artwork didn't really help it at all. It just never really felt exciting. Even when the dialogue was at its best, being it's very snappy and witty, it just kind of had this sense of not ever really fully coming together, so it didn't really quite work for me. But we got some graphic novels out. Let's talk about them. I Am Stan by Tom Scioli. I have been so pumped for this book. It was my favorite book for Free Comic Book Day. This is the unauthorized the unauthorized biography of Stan Lee by Tom Scioli. He did Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. Now he's on I Am Stan, the graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee. This is a brutally honest portrait of Stan Lee. It's not really necessarily picking sides, because a lot of people do that, like, oh, I'm Kirby heavy or I'm Stan Lee heavy. By the way, Team Kirby. However, it took the genius of Stan Lee to make it all happen as well. And this is a nice, I think, slightly unbiased look at Stan Lee's story in a very true and honest way. And I think that this is a must-read for any hardcore comic book fan. I haven't read the whole thing yet, though. I've only made it through a little bit of it, and I've done a flip through, and it just looks absolutely amazing, and I cannot wait to read that. Also, from IDW, we get a hardcover collection of Godzilla by James Stokoe. James Stokoe is a freaking fantastic artist, and he did Godzilla, what was it, the Half-Century War, I think, and then an issue of Godzilla in Hell. All of that is collected in an oversized format. I believe it's oversized. Yeah, that's oversized. That's not oversized. It's in a hardcover format. It's not oversized at all. That should be oversized, especially for that price. This is $40 and it's not oversized? That should be oversized. But I'll tell you what, the book is gorgeous. It even has his covers in it. So if you're a fan of James Stokoe artwork, and you're a fan of Godzilla, there is no reason why this should not be on your shelf. That's why it's going to be on my shelf. So let's recap. James Stokoe on Godzilla. That's awesome. Should be, for that price, it should be a little bit more oversized, especially with his artwork. Very detailed and textured. I Am Stan. Graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee. Y'all, that is, if you think I'm cheating with the Batman Gargoyle of Gotham as the pick of the week, then this is your pick of the week right there. I Am Stan. Kilmore doesn't really work for me, never really quite connects. Coda doesn't really work for me, never really quite connects. Some really cool ideas, some pretty artwork. Negaduck, I loved it. Exactly what I wanted. Negaduck doing Negaduck things in the Darkwing Duck universe. St. John, very impressed with this. Had a lot of earnest heart. Then we got Crusader #1. I absolutely love this, especially the artwork's got this nice kind of wavy line to it. Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer, way better than I was anticipating. So I really did appreciate that. Dark Ride is getting deeper and more emotional, and I appreciate it for that. I Hate Fairyland just continues to do what that book does, which is be awesome. Something epic, some amazing ideas with amazing artwork, but just a little clunky in the dialogue. The Cull, kind of losing momentum for me already in issue #2. Creepshow, half of it was really good, half of it was okay, but the smell was the best. Smell of the week right there. Red Goblin, loving the exploration of the legacy of evil by Alex Packnadell and company. Miles Morales' Spider-Man losing a little bit of steam, but it picks it up a little bit at the end there. Children of the Vault, great ideas and concepts in the midst of just an X-Men book. Come on. We need more stuff like that in comics. Incredible Hulk #4, different art, but it works, and it's a really cool story, continuing that horror vibe for Hulk. Alligator Loki, ridiculously cute and charming. Spine-Tingling Spider-Man, this is Spider-Man in a horror story, but it works because that Juan Ferreira artwork, and I love how they recomposition the artwork there to make it work on the page. Werewolf by Night #1, a decent enough one-shot for Werewolf by Night, but a year too late. Avengers Incorporated. Avengers is like a detective agency. It's interesting. We'll see how it develops. Daredevil #1, though, was very impressed with this, especially what Aaron Kuder was able to do with his style and how he could appropriate that for Daredevil. World's Finest Teen Titans improved on the previous 2 issues. Batman Incorporated ends its run right now for the time being with a really exceptional finale. Green Lantern does things with Sinestro I've never seen and just continues to build momentum. Batman and Robin #1, a little bit of disclarity in the artwork at times, but a pretty solid run. And then Raphael Grandpa on Batman Gargoyle of Gotham. Frank Miller variant with Jock getting the cover of the week. But the pick of the week goes to this book. Amazing artwork, a good solid Batman story that is a detective comic story, but just so freaking good, y'all. I love this book. So there you go. That's what I read. That's what I thought. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Please be sure to vote for us over at the cbcawards.org. We've been nominated for Best Overall Channel, Favorite Channel, Best Hair, Best Comic Book Review, Best Ongoing Series, Best Collaboration. Vote as you will, but please do vote over at cbcawards.org. Also, you can join us at patreon.com/PCP if you want to help support this channel. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station. Pop, pop, boom.